Well, it's great to have Andrea and Jean here sharing with us about intercession, prayer as intercession, and prophetic intercession, and how the Holy Spirit leads us in our praying. So, Andrea and Jean, thank you for joining me this afternoon. I'm going to ask you, first of all, what is prophetic intercession? What do we mean by that?
Prophetic intercession opens the spirit realm to us so we can prophesy in prayer more intelligently. It's different than asking the Lord to do something, which is a prayer of petition. It commands something to be done and so brings change. So listening to the Holy Spirit is important because God gives us a prayer strategy instead of us praying from our own intellect.
And I've been reminded about the wedding at Cana, where obviously you know the story, they ran out of wine at the wedding, and Mary just said to everybody, do whatever he tells you to do. And that is a key thing in prophetic intercession, that we actually listen well and do whatever he tells us to do.
So how do we become sensitive to the Holy Spirit speaking to us?
Mostly by nurturing your relationship with Jesus, spending time with him, just in the quiet place, in that secret place with him, and spend time listening to him and just generally talking to him and being close, just practicing being close to Jesus really, and just being sensitive to hearing his voice. And often it's a quiet voice, but I always come with worship first, and just usually quiet worship, and just still your heart from the day's activities, and just come quietly with thanksgiving in your heart as well.
That's very helpful. So what ways does God speak to us?
Well, he speaks in dreams, visions,
impressions. Sometimes he'll give you an impression which is it's just an impression in your heart, it's just a knowing, and often we need to follow that knowing, and just sometimes actually he'll speak to us using films. The Lord's done that to me quite a lot of times, using billboards, adverts. Those are the outside meeting type of places that he may speak to you. But generally he'll speak to you with a small, gentle impression, or just a small, gentle word. And obviously he'll speak to us through the Bible.
So if you're praying in a group and you sense the Lord saying something to you, how do you then turn that into prayer? How do you know how to do that?
Well, what I usually do is just ask in the group if anybody has a confirming word or a confirming thought that just brings us into agreement on the topic. It's not always the case that you will have somebody else agreeing, but we can come to an agreement. So we're making sure that we are all agreeing and praying off the same page when we do that. And we just offer it up to the Lord and just speak it out. It's important to just speak it out, but you can be quietly listening as you speak, as other people are speaking as well.
So how do you know when you've prayed enough about something?
I usually get a sense of release. We just tend to know that that's complete. The Lord just lets you know. Otherwise, there's still that feeling inside that you need to continue otherwise. So
I think it's a peace that comes on the group as well, so everyone can sense that we've done the job.
That's wonderful. Can you give an example of this kind of prayer, prophetic intercession, bringing some breakthrough into a circumstance?
Yeah. I don't remember how we were prophetically interceding, but there was an occasion when we were praying for trafficking in the area, in the city, and that week there was an arrest of people trafficking, and the people were released. So we could see it in the news, which is always nice, but often it's very quiet. We don't always get to see or hear about the answers.
That's very true. sometimes we have to just trust the Lord with what we've prayed for is what He's asked us to do. So if a group is going to start trying to grow in prophetic intercession, have you got some tips of how they might do that?
Well, they could go for training on how to hear God's voice. You can listen to podcasts, etc. Because it's important, I think, in prophetic intercession to hear what God's saying. So that's at the forefront. Also, intimacy in your own life, and knowing your authority. You need to know that you've got authority, so you need to know what the Word says about that. Also, you need to develop unity within the group, which means being vulnerable to one another. So that's something else.
I find my advice would be for people starting out is that get together with like-minded people. Even if you don't feel very good, well, most of us feel we don't always hear the Lord, and we don't always hear the Lord. But if you can get together with like-minded people, talk about it, pray together, and allow yourselves to come into a nurturing environment where you help each other, you're accountable to each other, and you will grow in that environment, really. I would suggest that if you're coming into a situation where you're having spiritual warfare, that you would plead the blood and pray protection over each other and your families, because that's something not to be underestimated. And don't approach these things unless you feel the Lord is really leading you that way and there's agreement in the group.
So I know that over the years you've led many times of prophetic intercession with a small group here at the Beacon. Can you give us a flavour of what an evening might be like when you come to meet?
Well, it feels very casual, actually. It's lovely because we're in relationship with each other, so we generally have a lovely casual chat, to be honest, first, and we talk about things that we feel the Lord has been prompting us to be bringing to the evening. And we'll spend at least probably 40 minutes in worship. Sometimes it's quiet worship, just contemplative worship. And that might change. It's just how we feel the Lord is leading us on the night, but always worship and thanksgiving. And then the Lord will just probably in the worship bring something to our attention. It's not always something that we've brought in discussion. It might be something completely different. So we have to be prepared that what we've talked about may not be what the Lord always wants us to pray about. So generally we'll have a little discussion. Has anybody got anything to share? And often the Lord will share something in the worship. And then we will just take it to the Lord. And when the Holy Spirit's on you in this, sometimes we may just pray, and sometimes we may intercede with sounds and groans and utterances from the Holy Spirit, but go with the flow of that, because there is a sound that the Lord's wanting to release, often that shakes the heavenlies. What we release on earth, the Lord will use to shake in the heavenlies. It's a little bit like the boy that brought the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and the Lord will multiply and use whatever we bring, however small, He will multiply and use it.
Are there any other ways that God might lead you?
Yes, sometimes He'll lead us in a group to do some prophetic actions. This will just be something that will lead to a release in the heavenlies. It often leads to a breakthrough over something. So it's important to be listening for those things that we might think are silly, but actually the Lord is leading us to do for a reason.
Anything else you'd like to say about working together as a group in prayer like this?
Yeah, it's really important that you listen to each other and you're aware of how the Holy Spirit's moving in the group, because we will only prophesy in part and the Lord will definitely be speaking to others. So be sensitive to how the Lord is leading, and just nurture and encourage people to release what the Lord's giving them. They may just be holding back, but often what they've got to say is most important.
Thank you. Well, Andrea and Jean, it's been a pleasure to chat with you, and we hope you've enjoyed these insights and tips from a couple of seasoned prayers in the Beacon. And why not come down to the Beacon, experience one of our prayer times, and maybe take some of these hints and tips and try these in your own prayer group in your own church. God bless you in your prayer life. Thanks for watching.